Today's question is, could God create a rock so heavy he could not lift it? In this video, I'll answer that question from a biblical perspective. This question is frequently asked by skeptics of God, the Bible, Christianity, etc. If God can create a rock that he cannot lift, then God is not omnipotent. If God cannot create a rock so heavy that he cannot lift, then God is not omnipotent. According to this argument, omnipotence is self-contradictory. Therefore, God cannot be omnipotent. So, the question, could God create a rock so heavy he could not lift it? The quick answer is no. But the explanation is far more important to understand than the answer. This question is based on a popular misunderstanding about the definitions of words like almighty or omnipotent. These terms do not mean that God can do anything. Rather, they describe the amount of God's power. Power is the ability to effect change, to make something happen. God, being unlimited, has unlimited power, and the Bible affirms this in Job chapter 11, verses 7 through 11, chapter 37, verse 23, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18, Revelation chapter 4, verse 8, etc. Therefore, God can do whatever is possible to be done. God cannot, however, do that which is actually impossible. This is because true impossibility is not based on the amount of power one has. It is based on what is really possible. The truly impossible is not made possible by adding more power. Therefore, unless context indicates otherwise, for example, Matthew chapter 19, verse 26, where man's ability is being shown in contrast to God's, impossibility means the same thing whether or not God is involved. So, the first part of the question is based on a false idea that God being almighty means that he can do anything. In fact, the Bible itself lists things God cannot do, like lie or deny himself. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 18, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13, and Titus chapter 1, verse 2. The reason he cannot do these things is because of his nature and the nature of reality itself. God cannot do what is not actually possible to be done, like create a two-sided triangle or a married bachelor. Just because words can be strung together this way does not make the impossible possible. These things are contradictions. They are truly impossible in reality. Now, what about this rock? A rock would have to be infinitely large to defeat an infinite amount of lifting power. But an infinite rock is a contradiction, since material objects cannot be infinite. Only God is infinite. There cannot be two infinites. So the question is actually asking if God can make a contradiction, which he cannot.
Can God make a rock so big that he can't lift it? Or as Bart Simpson would say, can God make a burrito so big that he can't eat it? Now, why does this seem like a significant challenge? Well, if you say yes, God can do it, then God is limited because he makes a rock so big and now there's something he can't do. If you say no, God can't do it, then God is also limited. So as the skeptic would say, either way, we find that there's something God cannot do. And at first, Christians often get flustered by this, but I say, let's ask a more basic question. Can God do anything? And usually when I ask audiences, especially young people, can God do anything? Every hand shoots up because we want to say, no, you can't limit God. And then I'll bring a volunteer up and I'll say, all right, I've got a task for you. And I'll take a paper clip. And what I'll do this paper clip is I'll say, all right, can you bend this into a square circle? Now, half the time, the student will actually try to do it and then give up pretty quickly. The other half of the time, they won't even take it from me, realizing that such a thing can't be done. I'll say, all right, what if we had Arnold Schwarzenegger or Samson here, one of the strongest people on the planet? Could they turn a paperclip into a square circle? And the answer is no. Why? Because it doesn't matter how much power you have, a square circle cannot exist. So even God couldn't make a square circle. This is not a limitation upon God. This is a limitation on the nature of a square circle, which in itself cannot exist. So when we say God can do anything, we mean God can do anything that can can't be done. But then there's another follow-up question. Could God tell a lie? Could God deceive you? Could God cause himself to cease to exist? And the answer is no. In fact, I said to a student one time, I said, you know God can't tell a lie, but you can? Yes, you can tell a lie, God can. That's not a strength, that's a weakness. God can't tell a lie because God is perfect. It's like saying, can God need glasses to see? And if you need glasses, that's a recognition of a weakness. Because God is perfect, he has no weaknesses. So when we say God is all-powerful, what we mean is God can do anything that's logically possible, that power can do, that's consistent with his nature. So can God make a rock so big he can't lift it? The answer is no. That's not a recognition of a weakness in God. That's a recognition that that very idea is absurd within itself. If something can be done and it's morally good, God can do it. This tells us that the Christian God is trustworthy. That means that God will not lie. He will not deceive us. Even though people around us will, and we ourselves at times have done things we know is wrong, God is the only one who is always good and uses his power for that end. That's a God worth trusting.